Shout out to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Hey guys, Spirit of the Law here. In this Civ overview, we're going to take an early look at the soon-to-be-released Chronicles Alexander DLC, focusing on the Macedonians, or maybe more accurately, the Macedonians. Off the bat, to be very clear, this is not a civilization coming to ranked AoE2. This is solely for the campaign-focused Alexander DLC in the self-contained Chronicles spin-off mode with its own Civ pool. Though you can play these civs against the AI in skirmish mode or in unranked lobbies against other players, just like you could with Athenians, Spartans, and Achaemenids. This overview then is just an introduction to get you ready to play the DLC campaign if you want to hit the ground running, or see some experimental ideas the devs are playing around with, as elements here could theoretically be added to future civilizations. Speaking of which, there are two brand new mechanics for Macedonians we should start by looking at. The first is their Recruitment Doctrine system. Basically, at your barracks archery ranger stable, you can toggle between conscript recruitment, mercenary recruitment, or balance mode. Depending on which you pick, you can pay a little more or less food and wood for units in exchange for training speed. If you want to save resources, conscript recruitment discounts 15% of food and wood costs, but units train much more slowly, whereas mercenary recruitment is 10% more food and wood for double the regular training speed. Double creation speed for only a 10% higher cost seems like a pretty good deal, at least once your economy is nicely set up, and the only thing to watch out for is a toggle displays the next doctrine you can jump to. And here, for example, it feels like the icon suggests I'm in the more expensive mercenary mode, but actually is telling me that by clicking the button, I'll switch into mercenary mode, not telling me whether I'm in balanced or conscript at the moment. So just be a little careful with the UI that you're in the mode you want to be. The other new mechanic is a team bonus giving a unique upgrade for outposts to Fortified Outposts. The way this works is on any outpost you build, you can pay 50 wood to upgrade it, after which it gains a small amount of attack and range, plus speed up friendly units by 20% over a fairly wide area. The best use I've found for these is building a line of them to help your units move around in the late game, though there's also a unique tech to let them heal nearby friendly units 1 HP every 2 seconds. With that tech, including a few of them on the front lines, helps pull off a very powerful slow push, where you can take ground and then fall back to heal, which makes it very easy to conserve valuable gold units. And luckily, we don't have to worry about whether this is balanced for ranked play or not. The healing even works on siege units, so your forward villagers don't have to get hung up repairing and can just keep building outposts. Moving on to their civ bonuses, the first is simply they're less punished by having a hill disadvantage, where instead of uphill enemies dealing 25% more damage, they'll deal just 15% more. Presumably, this plays a role in the campaign, and maybe reflects how Macedonians outperformed historically in situations they had what appeared to be a large terrain disadvantage. The next bonus is, I think, a bit more interesting, and is that Infantry and Cavalry share armor upgrades. Finally, someone realized you can just slap a guy with good infantry armor on top of a horse, much the same way their melee attack upgrades are combined by default. The Macedonian tech tree really pushes them toward combined arms with infantry and cavalry, so this bonus just helps accommodate that with one fewer set of upgrades to pick up. Admittedly, it does feel a little weird to open scouts and pick up +1 armor for infantry, but you get used to it pretty quickly. And something you may not have noticed before is that infantry armor upgrades are actually cheaper than cavalry. For that reason, even if you're solely making cavalry, you still save 150 food and 100 gold, while in a situation you would have picked up armor for both unit types, you then save over 1,000 resources, so this bonus adds up pretty quickly. Their last bonus is their siege get +1 pierce armor and deal 30% more bonus damage against buildings. Rams and trebuchets, or palatonins as they're called in Chronicles, don't really need another pierce armor. But for reskinned mangonels, going from 6 to 7 pierce armor can be impactful against something like a cavalry archer that potentially has 8 attack, cutting that damage in half. The 30% extra bonus damage is then useful for the units with high pierce armor anyway, so it feels like every siege unit benefits either way. Macedonians actually have a very nice siege tech tree as well, including the siege ballista, which is basically a bombard cannon. That's their bonuses, and you've already seen a few glimpses, but now let's switch our focus to their two unique units, starting with the Phalangite or Phalangite, not sure how to pronounce it, but as a group we would call a phalanx. Now these are a very cleverly designed unit you make at the barracks and cost 50 food and 40 gold, depending of course on which recruitment doctrine you select, with the unit having an extra long reach, almost double that of a Kamiuk, then throwing in the added twist of a minimum range as well. Compared to your other infantry options, they're a bit of a hybrid between swordsmen and pikes, having middling damage, relatively low armor, a middle ground attack rate between the two, and some, but not as extreme, anti-cavalry bonus damage. Its stats actually don't look great at a glance considering its cost, but what I love about their range is you get the reach of several rows at once, while the minimum range means one on its own is almost useless in melee. Just to highlight the Kamiuk comparison for a moment, individually they're noticeably weaker, with lower attack, HP, reload time, and speed. In open field combat then, maybe somewhat disappointingly, I actually find they don't beat swordsmen in a slugfest, though they already do much better than their otherwise terrible stats would suggest. This sort of standing in place and just letting their reach do the work would be fine against cavalry given their bonus damage, and certainly if you can stack them up in a sufficient choke point, it's a hard counter to just about any melee unit. But the best way to use them is to cheese things a bit and treat them like a very short-range archer or skirmisher with some hit and run. Using a bit of micro and the stop command, they suddenly completely wreck infantry and cavalry alike, even out in the open. This isn't exactly how the phalanx was used in reality as far as I know. However, what goes better together than Macedonian cheese? Alexander was famous for nothing if not breaking orthodoxy, so creative use of your units like this is completely on brand. The downside is the unit's relatively low pierce armor, though thankfully they don't actually count as spearmen, so there's some bonus damage from skirmishers and archers that they don't take. Personally, I gravitate toward this unit a lot, as they're very deadly in mass with a bit of micro, particularly if you back them up with siege or cavalry against archers, plus some self-healing from nearby fortified outposts. The second unique unit is companion cavalry from the fort. Just for their cloaks alone, they're obviously worth training, and are basically a nightline alternative at the castle. Stats-wise, they're pretty similar to the Lancer, which is the Chronicles version of a knight, having a bit lower gold cost, one more pierce armor, and a secret +5 bonus against unique units, growing to +7 when you make them elite, similar in idea to a samurai. Given the cost of upgrading the elite companion cavalry versus the paladin equivalent called Imperial Cavalry, I would just pick one of these two units to use. The more enemy archers and unique units around, the more companion cavalry shines, whereas the more melee units you're up against, the more the regular Knightline will start to outperform it in the long run. Next, let's take a look at their unique techs, which, remember, for Chronicles civilizations come in the form of choices, where you have to pick one of two options in both Castle and Imperial Age. In Castle Age, renamed Classical Age, you have the choice of doubling down on either Doctrines or Fortified Outposts. One option increases your doctrine effectiveness, decreasing the food and wood penalty of mercenary recruitment while further boosting its training time, and likewise increasing the discount of conscript recruitment from 15 to 20% and lessening the training time penalty. Essentially, regardless of which mode you prefer, it's basically a unit discount and training speed boost, so the only way to play it wrong would be to get this tech and then leave your buildings on balanced recruitment, in which case you lose out on any benefit. The other choice gives your Fortified Outpost a passive healing ability of 30 HP per minute for nearby units. Given this helps you conserve your gold units, I like this option a bit more personally, though either unique tech could situationally be the better choice depending on how interested you are in forward outposts and using those as part of your strategy. Jumping to Imperial Age, here you basically choose between doubling down on your phalanx or companion cavalry. The first option cuts your phalanx minimum range in half, helping your units find targets more easily, which would otherwise be a bit too close. The other option gives companion cavalry a 15% speed boost when they're close to a target and charging at it. There's a cooldown on this effect, but it could help catch up to something otherwise a bit quicker than they are, and extra mobility for cavalry is always nice. Design-wise, I like that it pushes you to embrace one of your unique units ahead of the other, and it'll probably be obvious to you which of the two units you plan to lean on more in a given situation. Though I also have to say, the Castle Age unique techs felt like a bit better value and more impactful than these two. So those are their unique units and techs, and now let's take a stroll through their tech tree, starting with the archers. Here you have the equivalent of fully upgraded crossbows, skirmishers, and cavalry archers in Castle Age, but then those units don't really improve in Imperial. Skirmishers still can play a role backing up your cavalry against spear units, and you can also use a doctrine to reduce the wood cost or training time of all of these, but in general, the archery range isn't really where you want to put your focus. Moving on to infantry, the big standout here is the Phalangite, combining elements of the swordsman and spear lines, though you still have the fully upgraded halberdier equivalent, and mixing these into your phalanx army can be a pretty good way to save on gold. Infantry is clearly intended to be the core of your army, just as it was for Macedonians historically. Next up for their cavalry, don't forget it's the infantry upgrades here that you want, indirectly saving a ton on resources on top of having good options with the heavy cavalry line and slightly more flexible companion cavalry at the fort. You are missing the Hussar reskin, though remember you're able to discount or increase their training time with a doctrine, and you also have a unique tech to speed up your companion cavalry in order to fill that late game raiding unit role. Moving on to siege, again no problems here, with the full tech tree plus more armor and bonus damage. To me, this is a great complement to their infantry, either with the mangonel line against ranged units or the ram line to help take out buildings. In fact, if you ignore their archers, everything here in the tech tree so far is just looking really strong, with lots of potential unit combos to play around with. Next up for the Navy, remember Chronicles overhauled this entire aspect of the game, and while Macedonians are decent enough early, they really drop off late, missing Shipwright, Bracer, the heavy demo ship, as well as your fast fire ship / trash naval unit called the Lembos. Athenians and Achaemenids are still definitely the naval powers. As for defenses, things at the university, or in this case academy, look fine, plus they get major bonus points for their outpost. Fortified Outposts speeding up your units and healing them massively increases the utility of that building, and for the first time, make an outpost feel like part of the defensive building family. I don't know how you'd balance it online, but luckily they don't have to, and it just makes Macedonians a great defensive civilization. And finally, for their temple, they're missing the equivalent of Heresy, Sanctity for the plus 15 HP, as well as Block Printing's plus 3 range, so it's not a particularly good monk / priestess civilization, which is completely fine, as this civ has a lot already going for it. Also, I have to say I love the thematic reskins of text throughout the tech tree, even if at the temple especially, it makes it a little harder to find the text I'm looking for. It's definitely worth it for the immersion value. So that's the Macedonians. While they're definitely a bit more focused on the late game, they're a fun civilization between two different unique units, plus their unique upgrade to outposts. Given they're by far the most played civ in the campaign, it makes sense to have a lot of things for players to explore, and the more situational bonuses like reduced hill disadvantage probably make more sense in the context of that campaign. The highlight for me is definitely the Phalanx unit and building the rest of your strategy around those in particular, backed up by Fortified Outposts and Siege. The visual of the gigantic sarissas pointing into the sky gives a very unique look to the whole army, and if you're shopping for a replica of one of those to hang on your wall, look no further than my brand new online business, Spear of the Law, where we have everything from toothpick-sized models to full-scale 23-foot-long pikes for sale, with everything in between. Shop for those on a great website I made with this video's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online. Whether you're just starting or managing a growing brand, Squarespace makes it easy to create a great-looking website, engage with your audience, and then sell anything from products to content to time, all in one place. Using either their pre-made templates or Squarespace's AI-enhanced website builder, you can create a fully customized website to suit your needs. It's perfect for building an online presence for a physical business or starting an online store using their built-in tools for inventory and shipping, with plenty of analytics to give you insight about your website's traffic and sales. Go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/spiritofthelaw to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. So that was an early look at the Macedonians coming in the new DLC, which comes out this Tuesday, October 14th. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.